Welcome to the Monday Minutes. I was sitting around not too long ago, and I wanted to watch a movie that inspired me. I was thinking about watching a film where the characters were doing something that was kind of lavish, that had a lavish lifestyle. Flying around on private planes, taking extravagant vacations, owning real estate that I would hope to own one day. And, well, first of all, you ever notice how hard it is to find a movie about someone who's rich and is a good person? Pretty much impossible, other than maybe Richie Rich. But it's hard to find a movie, in fact, that is about someone that's rich that's not the worst person in the movie. Pretty scary. Anyway, I was Googling this and ended up being directed to a movie documentary called Born Rich, which is about people that inherit massive wealth and what their lifestyle is like. And I'm not talking about upper middle class, you get to go on a vacation every now and then, you get to eat out at nice restaurants. I'm talking about multi-generational, 9-figure type of wealth. It is directed by Jamie Johnson, who is one of the heirs of the Johnson & Johnson company. And Ivanka Trump is in it as well. She, by the way, is very well adjusted comparatively. Most of the characters are struggling with depression or have issues with substance abuse problems, etc. So the thing is, when you watch a film like this, first of all, did not accomplish what I was trying to accomplish. But when you watch this film, you get the impression that having money is like this evil that is going to result in your children not knowing which way is up or down. And it's just not the case at all. What really the takeaway of the movie is that money can multiply your problems. Money can multiply your weaknesses. Now, it can also multiply your strengths, but let's focus on the negative real quick. If you are crazy and you are a lunatic and you are broke, the amount of damage that you can do to society is relatively limited because your resources are limited. So it's difficult for you to make a huge impact on society because most people don't really know who you are, generally speaking. It's like the scene in the Simpsons movie. The leader of the EPA shows up and he goes in this crazy rant about how he wants 10,000 tough guys watching everyone and everything they do, and he wants 10,000 soft guys there to make the tough guys look more tough. And he starts going on a list of how he wants the order of tough guys and soft guys to be going. And someone says, "Sir, I think you've gone mad with power." And he says, "Well, of course I have. Have you ever tried going mad without power? It's boring. No one listens to you." Kind of like that. So what's the point of all this? It is not the case that money makes people crazy. It just emphasizes whatever they're bringing to the table, which is why if you're listening to this podcast and in the process of building wealth, especially if you have a goal of creating legacy wealth, it's important to take that power that you may be passing along to someone else very seriously, which is why it's really important to do things like create a business plan for your family. Now, granted, I may not be the best person to give you advice about this because I'm in the process of starting the smallest family one can start, which is I'm about to be married. So we'll be a family of 2 until we have children. But this is something I take very seriously because of the fact that I'm in pursuit of that legacy wealth. So here's some of the things that have come up on the show before that I really like and some ideas that I think people should be taking seriously, which is creating a plan for your family that is similar to a business plan. And this would include things like creating your core values and allowing all the family members to participate in what their core values are. This is like a team building exercise. It allows everyone to get heard and everyone can play a role and everyone can participate just like you would want a company to run. This is a really good opportunity to outline what kind of family you want to have. So you can ask certain questions like, what type of communication do you want to hear between the family? What type of impact do you want to have on the community? What are some of the short-term and long-term goals you have as a family? Some of those long-term goals, some of those short-term goals may be things like, I want to take 2 vacations a year. And where are some of those places we want to go on vacation? And what do those vacations want to consist of? And by the way, vacations may be a great opportunity to have a family meeting and talk about these exact things. So that may seem a little crazy. It's not crazy in comparison to what can go wrong, especially if you're in this pursuit of that legacy wealth. So if you're interested, check out the documentary. It's a pretty good documentary, but the key point here is that there's crazy people all over the world that no one really knows about. But if you're in pursuit of that legacy wealth, you should be taking it very seriously. It's something that Chrissy and I have talked about many, many times. Living in California is crazy, right? I moved from Memphis, Tennessee across the country to come to LA in pursuit of something awesome. Chrissy moved from rural New Jersey across the country to LA in pursuit of something awesome. We moved with no friends separately, and came to California because it's the best place in the world. So one of the things that we've always thought about is, if we're going to have children, are we going to raise them in California? Because that struggle that Chrissy and I both had to go to come here is some of the things that built character in our lives. Now, I think we are going to stay in California. We've kind of committed to that, but that's a really important conversation to have, right? Similarly, most of the listeners of the show, most of them came from humble backgrounds. And I'm sure that if you're listening to the show, you've certainly made a dent in that. But I'm sure that you'll agree that most of your favorite memories of your childhood have to do with being, in that humble background. And so it's like, well, are your kids going to have a similar kind of upbringing? At the end of the day, probably not if you're in pursuit of that legacy wealth. So you have to be cautious about how you direct them, how you build that character otherwise. Overcoming adversity is a really important thing that builds character. It's hard to simulate that without the financial component. So it's just something to think about. So I really do advocate, creating that business plan for your family. And like I said, admittedly, I'm in the process of starting my own family, but we do things like this. We have goals that we have for our relationship, and we've outlined them. And just outlining them is a great exercise. I imagine it becomes more and more and more important as you have children. So thanks again, guys. Hope you enjoyed this. All right, listeners, you know the routine. This show is all about learning, making wise investments, and protecting and growing your capital. So if you're interested in these topics, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Of course, if you've already enjoyed a couple of great episodes, don't be shy. Leave a review. It really helps the show's visibility. And lastly, if you're an accredited investor and you're interested in learning more about our investment opportunities, the types of deals that I personally invest in, go to asymcapital.com. That's ASYMcapital.com. Thanks a lot.